You're listening to the Full Contact Poker Podcast with Daniel Negreanu. And now your host, Daniel Negreanu.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Full Contact Poker Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Dnegspodcast, Daniel Negreanu. If you missed the first episode, what's wrong with you? It was a good one. It was Brian Balsbog, my agent and good friend. We went over all things poker sponsorship. We talked about the boom and how crazy it was and how much money was flying around. And, it was really just sort of an interesting time in poker. But we went over a bunch of stuff there. And today's guest, we're going to continue in that sort of vein about where poker's at now. We're going to be talking to Alex Dreyfus. But before we get to that, wanted to do a little wrap-up of the EPT Barcelona. A few interesting things happening out there. The ultimate winner of the EPT main event was a Polish kid named Sebastian Malik, 21-year-old, who used to play chess. And, he's a qualifier on PokerStars for like 27 euro, and he ended up winning like 1.1 million euro. And before that, his biggest cash ever was 15K euro, which he'd done a year before in Barcelona. And, so that was pretty impressive for the kid to go from a 15K score to a milli. Might change his life just a little bit. Massive success over in Barcelona. All the EPTs are, do well in terms of drawing numbers, and Barcelona's definitely at the top of that list. But this turnout was insane, just shocking. The main event had 1,785 players, and 416 of those were qualifiers that qualified on PokerStars. You talk about the Estrella's main event, which is the tour that precedes it. It's like a 1,000 buy-in, and they had 3,477 players. We saw record fields also in the PokerStars Cup, the 2K Estrella's High Roller, the 50K, which was won by a retired businessman, some kid named Fedor Holtz. He's pretty cool that a retired businessman can win a tournament like that. Pretty impressive. The 10K also record fields, and we talked about 416 people that were in this tournament that qualified on PokerStars. And a few of the highlights, aside from, the winner, who cashed pretty good, turned investment, it was a kid named Andreas Chalkiadakis, guessing that's Greek. He qualified for 109 euro, and he came sixth, and he won 330,000. We got another one named, look at these names, bro. We got Spiridon Kukoris. He won a seat for $22 and cash for 33,000, 27th place. We had Didier Mazarak. He turned 27 into 21K. There's nobody named like John Smith anymore. And then finally had Tobias Revenas, who spun his $22 into 13,000, coming in like 95th place. And I think what's interesting about that is, a lot of people were talking about the payouts. So we made a change to the payouts for Barcelona, where we went from, years ago it was 10% of the field got paid. We kicked that up to 15%. A lot of people complained and think it was fair. I don't see how that makes sense, that it's not fair. And now they've gone to 20%. And, a lot of people are like, well, who, a lot of people's argument against that was like, well, who wants to, break even on a min cash and not make any money? Well, what they're not thinking about is bigger picture. You have some people that have qualified, as we just mentioned, for $27. So when they cash for, the min cash, 12,000, 10,000, whatever that is, that's like a big score. And I think the model is what really propelled the World Series of Poker main event, which is to have online qualifiers, satellite qualifiers in these events. So expanding the payout structure just a little bit ensures that more of these guys are going to leave with money in their pocket. It ensures that, the average grinder, his money stretches a little longer because he's going to cash a higher percentage of the time. And who does it affect negatively, really? Well, you could make an argument that the very best players, maybe take an ROI hit, but I think it's very, very slight. I don't think it's significant at all, especially because, they're going to cash more often. And on top of that, expanding the payouts to 20%, for a lot of these qualifiers, that are going to now have a chance to cash. Think about bubble play, like when you're actually directly on the bubble, and how much more abuse you will be able to inflict because people are trying to squeak in. I think that's overall like a benefit to the better players who are, not necessarily trying to squeak in for a min cash and they're going for it. So the effect on professionals is minimal, minuscule, so small in terms of how it's going to affect their ROI. But long term, for the health of the game and bigger picture, paying more people. And again, there's like a sliding scale with this, right? So obviously if you pay 90% of the field, that's just really stupid, and it's just like everyone's paying rake. But at the same side, if you just was winner take all, you wouldn't have 100 people in these tournaments. You just have Fedor sitting at a table by himself going, who would like to play? Nobody. I don't want to play with a retired businessman who still wins tournaments. Come on, man. So somewhere in the middle makes sense. And, we arbitrarily had 10% as the number for a long time, and then it became 15%. People were like, whoa, no, it's supposed to be 10. And then it became, no, it's supposed to be 15. And, we've gotten to the point now where 20% is going to be the new norm in the main events. Now, having said that, the high rollers are a very different animal. It's a smaller group of players, and I don't think the same rules should apply. It's a small tournament. You kind of want to just throw it to them and be like, what do you guys want? Like, what is your payout schedule structure that you want best? And they pretty much unanimously prefer 15%. So, I spoke that night. I heard a lot of the feedback on Twitter. I spoke to Edgar and another high-ranking member of PokerStars because the plan that they were going to actually leave it at 20% for the 10K, I guess it was. Yeah, the last 10K that they had, or was it the 50K? Well, yeah, it was the 50K. Pardon me. But I spoke to both of them and said, well, the plan was to do a survey and then maybe change it for next time. I said, you know what? Just change it this year and do the survey. And if the survey shows that people want higher percentage paid, then maybe you can do that on the next tournament. But so they did. They made the switch, which I think was cool. I mean, they had no real incentive not to. It's like, okay, if there's no reason to like take a stand against the players' voices who are playing in it when you have a 100-player field and most of those players want a 15%. Fine. I do believe that if you're looking outside of professional poker players in terms of what they prefer for main events, I think that they're going to say 20%. Maybe they don't even know it, but it's better for them, for like everyone involved. So. I think it'll be something that in a year from now, nobody's even going to like scoff at. It's just like, it is what it is. No big deal. Speaking about these qualifiers, right? We decided, since the spin and go thing has worked so well, to bring in new qualifiers. And obviously a lot of these guys are top notch players. But one of the things we thought we would do is in Barcelona have sort of a pre-tournament kind of rah-rah Q&A. And so I did it. I sat with a bunch of the guys who were playing, sometimes some of them for their very first live tournament ever, and just had like a really in-depth Q&A. And I think that's something that we're going to do going forward. And the whole goal is to try to make the recreational player experience better. Now, there's a lot of ways we could explain this, but the only way to ensure that poker has longevity is to make sure that new players are having good experiences when they come play. So the Q&As, the payouts for, more places, I think are in line with a bigger vision that makes sense long term. There was another announcement that was made during the EPT about a change to the EPT, if you will. PokerStars is going with a new model, and it's called the PokerStars Championships, as well as festivals. And essentially, the way I see it, the PokerStars Championships essentially are like just the EPT, except now we're going further than just Europe. When we already had the PCA in Bahamas. It's not Europe. Bahamas is not Europe, but it was still considered, like an EPT event, if you will. So there's no real negative downside to this. There's new venues that were announced. We're talking about Panama, one in Macau, and then a festival in New Jersey, which is exciting, back in the United States, and then another one in London, I believe. What I think is really interesting about what they're doing and sort of tying all these events together is the Player of the Year award, which is going to award $100,000 to, I think there'll be a tournament at the end of all the people that qualified throughout the year to play in it, and $100,000 free money will be handed out to the players. And as far as, essentially what this is kind of like a rebrand, from EPT. And if you think from a business perspective, the goal, of course, with these EPTs and these televised shows is to market the product. The product is PokerStars, right? PokerStars. So they don't just do this. They don't make these TV shows because they make a lot of money. They don't hold these events because they're big profit earns. They're used as, infomercials and marketing opportunities. So it just seems to make sense to me to cut out the middleman so that when people are watching the EPT, they see EPT, they're seeing European Poker Tour, in the hopes that they go from watching that to thinking, oh, I'm going to go to PokerStars, instead of just branding it PokerStars directly so that people are, more connected to hopefully, transferring over to the back end, which is to be playing some more online poker. Another thing that came to mind when I was playing, and this is a rule that's been changed at the World Series of Poker and all over Europe for a little bit now, and I think it's a mistake, and I wanted to bring it up. And I tweeted about it, put a Twitter poll up, and it was pretty close to 50-50, although most people, prefer the no-show rule, and I don't. And I'll explain what I'm talking about. On the river, if a player A bets, player B calls, and player A is bluffing and he mucks his hand, the rule now is nobody has to show nothing. The winning hand doesn't have to show. And in the past, the World Series of Poker had a rule. It was simple. Winning hand must show, and I like that rule in any called hand. On top of that, I'm a big believer that in any called hand, every player at that table should have the right to see either hand for several reasons. Number one, let's say you're in the middle, you're on the turn, and some guy from Norway, he bets into you. You call. Now, another dude from Norway, who they've been chatting, in between. I don't know these guys. I don't know if they're brothers or whatever. He raises. The other guy re-raises, gets you out of the hand. You fold your draw. Then the river, the guy bets. The guy calls. He says you're good. Both hands go in the muck. I mean, what the hell? I want to see those hands. I want to know what exactly is happening here in terms of, are these guys colluding? Are these guys squeezing me out? I paid up the turn to see these hands. It was a bet called hand. I should have every right to see at least one. I'm not saying that I don't think that the rule should be that it's mandatory to show, but if some player asks, I think that you should have the right. What this does also, this rule, is it creates the opportunity for what I would call implicit collusion. So let's say me and Phil Ivey, we're playing in a poker tournament at the same table, and we're buddies, right? So we just make an agreement. We say, listen, okay, so if I bet in the river and I'm bluffing and you call, don't make me show my hand and I won't make you show yours. So we can we can protect ourselves from giving away free information. So we make that rule, which benefits us and kind of takes away free information from everybody else. The other reason I don't like this rule, and it's a very minute reason, but it has happened. I've played in tournaments before. I played in cash games where there's a foul deck. A funny story about a guy named Ming. Okay, one time he's playing stud, 7-card stud. He's got a king of hearts up, right? He plays his hand all the way to the river, betting, jamming, right? And then on the river, the guy, shows a straight. And now, of course, Ming shows that he had started the hand with 2 king of hearts. Okay, so Ming was probably just going to try to win the pot, and if not, at the end, try to say, hey, foul hand, give me my money back. Luckily, they knew Ming, they knew his history, and, he didn't get away with that angle shoot. But, point being is sometimes you may have a foul deck. If the guy has a 9 of spades in his hand and the 9 of spades on board, that means that the big blind and the antes are supposed to be returned to the players. So it's basically a free roll to see the hand, just in case that's something that happens. But ultimately, it just comes down to simply this. I think that every called hand, that all players at the table should have a right to see either hand. And this rule makes it easier for chip dumping, and I'm not a big fan of that. One last thing I want to talk about before we get into today's podcast, or the interview with our guest Alex Dreyfus, is a little Hearthstone action. At the EPT Barcelona event, we had Team Liquid's Jeffrey Brucey, who's named Show, and then Yanni Savage, I don't even know how to say that, Yanni Savage Mikkonen, 2 professional Hearthstone players. So I got a kick out of that. We got some pictures that we posted on Twitter of me getting their autograph and them getting mine. So it was really fun to talk some Hearthstone with them, because I'm obviously very passionate about the game, and so passionate that this month, yours truly, for the first time ever, reached legendary status. That's right. I'm a fucking legend. I'm a Hearthstone legend. I introduced myself. Now, I went to the gym the other day and introduced my buddy. I was like, hi, my name's Daniel Negrano. I'm a Hearthstone legend. That's something that I'll take to the grave with me. On that note, I was talking to somebody about this is so unproductive, wasting my time playing this game, but I don't see it that way, and I'll tell you why. I look at it, I set a goal to become a legend at Hearthstone, right? And I spent a lot of hours doing it, a lot of, days on the couch, not necessarily contributing to society, if you will, but I set a goal and I achieved the goal. The journey is rewarding, and the reward at the end is just another example of goal setting and achieving something that makes me feel like if I can do that, I can do anything. And I know that's just every time you have a success, however small, in terms of achieving a goal, it sparks inside you something, I believe, that helps make it easier to achieve bigger and better goals. So I am officially a Hearthstone legend. I set the goal. I'm not going to be grinding for legend again this month. I'm going to start golfing again. We haven't done that in a long, long time. But I'm ready to get back out there and set some new goals, So there's that. And on that note, let's talk today about who we got on here. We got Alex Dreyfus, who you guys may know from the GPL, the Global Poker League. And in this interview, we're going to talk a little bit about how he got into this. He's got this entrepreneurial spirit, which they're just unique individuals. These people that just kind of like make shit happen. That just are go-getters, despite everyone telling them, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. He's like, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to try it anyway. And so we're going to talk about his vision for the GPL. We're going to talk a lot about China as well, in terms of what he sees possible there, the future, and how he views starting a business. And one of the things he touches on is how he doesn't start from how am I going to make money. He starts from how am I going to make this product really great. And I think that's a unique way to approach sort of any business startup or something along those lines, is instead of thinking about the quick fix, the quick buck, Alex seems like somebody who's in this for the long haul. And he's essentially, if the GPL works and becomes popular, this is a service to all in the industry. So I think we should be supportive of his efforts. Healthy skepticism is great, but at the same time, you can be supportive. So I'm excited to have you guys get a glimpse into an entrepreneur who sees big, thinks big, and goes big. So hope you guys enjoy this interview as much as I did. So I'm here with Alex Dreyfus, the man, the myth, the legend. And the plan here is to get deep into sort of the beginning, middle, and the ultimate end, which is GPL for him and his career. I don't know if it's the end. Maybe you got other things going on. But how you doing, Alex?
Hi, Daniel. I'm good. I'm in Malta tonight.
In Malta? You're like living in Malta now, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm French, obviously, with this accent, but I live in Malta since 10 years now.
Well, I've heard beautiful things. So anyway, I wanted to start, as I said earlier, about kind of like how you got into poker. I know a little bit about your story with Chile Poker, Winamax, but for those that don't know, why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about how you got into the game?
Sure. I mean, poker is almost like, for me, was a bit of a luck. I moved into the gaming space in 2004 by creating Winamax, and we did that with two other friends because we believed at that time, in 2004, that France was going to regulate online poker and online sports betting, and so we wanted to be the first French-focused company. We did that in 2004, and we were a bit ambitious because actually regulation came up in 2010. So I actually sold my shares in 2006, and I moved to Malta, where I created a ChilePoker.com, which was like European-facing online poker room on the iPoker network. Did that for 6-7 years. We had the beautiful Liz Liu as an ambassador, Fabrice Soulier as well, French guy, and few other initiatives, and did that for 6-7 years. And I ended up selling the technology and the platform to a Las Vegas-based group called Bali Technology. So I actually sold for a decent amount of money all my poker venture in 2012.
So
that was my bet.
Yeah, so I find like entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship really fascinating. And I think for a lot of people, I wonder, so when you say I started this and I did, how does that work exactly? Because obviously to start a website, to start an online poker, you need money. Where did that come from? How did you do that?
That's a good point. So to be fair, I should actually start where I started before poker, because long story short, I left school when I was 18 and 1 month. I left school without the authorization of my parents. I came back at home one day, my mother slapped me in the face, say, "What the fuck did you do?" And I say, "Well, I quit, I resigned." And I created my first company in 95, which was a web agency that I sold in 97 to Publicis Group, big communication group. And then I really created it my baby, because I was like a geek. I'm a tech guy. So I was a geek, doing my HTML stuff, programming and all that thing. And then I really built my first baby called WebCity.com, which was the equivalent back in the years of CitySearch.com in US or Zip2.com or Yelp.com today. And that's my life. My life is about internet. It's about technology. I made money. I lost money. In 2004, I was broke, totally broke. I was under the unemployment scheme, so I was paid by the French state to get a monthly allocation. I don't know what's the word. And I was looking for a new venture, a new business. And I decided to jump into the gaming business. But as you said, you need money. So I actually called two friends of mine who had some money.
Hey, you got a few $1 million I can borrow? How does that work exactly?
No, it was actually, we put $60,000 more or less to start the business. Then we raised $200,000 from another investors, and that's how we started Winamax. And
so when you do that, like when you go to an investor, you have this idea, you have this product. Like, what does a pitch look like? Like, how do you convince this guy to just shell over $200,000? Like, does he have a piece, or how does that work?
Yeah. At that time, he got 20%, and I mean. I've done that like 10 times. I mean, at the end, usually the people you're going to try to convince to invest, they don't necessarily invest only in the idea. They have to invest in the people because the idea could be wrong. But if the people can adjust, change, and evolve, that's fine. So it's always better to invest in good people with a bad idea than in a good idea with bad people.
So would you say that it's as equally important to enroll somebody in the vision that you have so that they taste it, they can believe it, and again, they believe in you. Even if they don't necessarily think the idea is all that good, the fact that they actually have faith in you is enough to win the moment.
Yes, it has to be. I would say, and you should ask some professional investors, but 90% of the decision making for investing is about the people. It's never only about the idea.
Yeah. So you mentioned school, right? And I think it's really interesting because a lot of people like you that are entrepreneurial find that school is either boring or it's not for them and they leave early. Like, what kind of student were you, and what was it about school that made were you bored? How did school go for you, and why did you leave so early?
I was bored. I think I didn't felt in the place where I was where I wanted to be. To be honest, I come from I would say a very good family, but not very good financially, like a very stable family. My father has a business, my mother has a shop, so they're entrepreneurs themselves. And I've been educated from my young age to that. When I was 14, etc., I wanted to leave school, I wanted to create my company, but of course you cannot. At 16, I asked to be emancipated. I don't know if it's the right word in English, but when you ask to be an adult without being an adult, because I wanted to quit school without the authorization of my parents, which of course they didn't want it. And why? I guess the reason why is because I believed that I wanted to create something, I wanted to achieve something, but the school was not the right platform for me. And I was the last one. True story. I was actually the last one in my when you rank people in the school. I mean, in your school, I was the last one in my class. And
so you're saying your grades were lower than everybody else's?
I was out of 30, I wanted to say players, 30 classmates. I was the last one.
Well, Albert Einstein was not good at school either, so there's that.
Yes, well, it's not that level. It's just that I was bored. I was not fascinated. I had 2 computers at home. I had, at that time, I'm talking in 93, I had what we call a BBS, bulletin board system. It was like a computer in my home where there was a modem connected to telephone, and people who has another computer were able to call my actually home numbers, connect to that modem, and I had a server, and I was doing forum pictures, porn pictures, of course, and that's how I started, and I was thrilled and excited about that, and I remember my first email as well, and that kind of things, and that's why I wanted to leave.
Right. So your poker career, you obviously did the Chili poker, you did the Winamax thing, and when that chapter closed in your life, what got you back in? What was the driving force behind picking up the global poker index? What did you see there that was valuable, and how did you think that you were going to turn this into a business?
I'm not going to say that Annie Duke called me because I think he will hang up. So luckily it didn't happen that way. No, what happened is, and true story to be honest, I sold my company in April 2012, made let's say 10 million X, whatever. I was happy. I could have left. I mean, I had enough money to leave poker, to leave whatever. I have a beautiful girlfriend. That would have been great. 1st of June or whatever month of June, I'm on holidays in US. A Saturday, I receive a call from the lawyer of Epic Poker. said, Alex, I know that you had an interest in the past, which is true, about Epic Poker League or the GPI, and I wanted to tell you that it's bankrupt and there will be an auction from Monday, and if you want to bid, you have to send $100,000 by Monday morning on the account of the lawyer. And I spent
and
this weekend in Miami.
You're bidding specifically for the Global Poker Index, not for the league or anything.
Yes, only GPI. Yeah. And I called like all my friends, said, guys, should I do it? Do you think there is potential? I mean, I had a vision. Vision is cocky, but I had an ambition. I had like a dream about how we can transform poker. And I thought that GPI could be the base and the foundation of what we want to build. I decided against my, actually, of course, wife, I mean, who became my wife since, but against her will, I actually made the bank transfer on Monday morning to be able to be part of the bid. And then started the process, blah, blah, blah. I actually lost the bid to buy GPI because GPI has been sold as a package with Epic Poker League to another company. But I helped that company to win the bid against another one, which I'm going to be transparent, was the Poker Night in America guys, so the Rush Street Gaming. They wanted to acquire this. And to avoid them to acquire GPI and Epic Poker League, I helped the other one. In exchange of what? They agreed to sell it back to me for like $200,000 or $300,000 a month and a half after.
What I'm curious about is like, what I'm really trying to wrap my head around is like, what value did you see in owning a ranking system on poker?
The ranking by itself is irrelevant. The ranking is just, especially that you buy nothing. You buy a domain name, you buy a trademark, and you buy a formula, whatever it is, but there is no data. There is nothing else. So what I wanted to buy was actually a story. I wanted to try to create this new vehicle, this new sports and entertainment vehicle to promote poker with a new angle. And the best way to do that was to actually become the equivalent of the ATP in tennis, somehow USPGA or whatever is the name in golf, meaning that I believe that having a neutral and independent ranking will help promoting players and will help to change the narrative and the storyline in the media. It's going to take years. And
sure.
It's going to
I get that part. So what I'm trying to wrap my head, you're an entrepreneur, right? And entrepreneurs, they do passion projects, but at the bottom line is they want to make some money. So what I'm curious about is like, when you saw this Global Poker Index, I look at it, I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to make money off of this thing?
Believe it or not, it never crossed my mind to think how I'm going to make money out of that. Every single venture I've made in the last 18 years of my life has been how can I create something that is valuable, that help an ecosystem, that help an industry, whatever. And then, yes, we will make money eventually. But the priority never has been, okay, I'm buying GPI, I'm going to sell advertising. Or one of the basic things when I acquired GPI, everybody told me, Alex, you should actually sell to the land-based casino, to the WPT, WSOP, or whatever tours, the fact that to be part of GPI, they should pay. And to be fair, that will be a very good business model, will be profitable immediately, and that's great. But by doing that, you go against the neutrality and the fact that GPI is legit. Because for GPI to be legit, you need to aggregate every single poker event in the world.
Sure.
So the priority was to establish a brand that will become that authority. And I've been a bit ambitious because I spent a lot of money on that. We became sponsors of the World Series of Poker. We spend money with the World Poker Tour. We spend money with the EPT to really acquire that legitimacy. Because, to become legitimate. And there was no outcome of making money out of it, at least out of that.
Well, that's my concern, right? So with any sort of business endeavor, it sounds to me like a lot of money's going out. You're spending money on marketing. You're spending money to create this brand, to gain some credibility, right? But within that, without a model or a revenue stream to, at least break even, it's not sustainable, right? So what was the avenue? Was it advertising, or what was it that you felt like could work so that, you could sustain doing this while you were shelling out big bucks trying to build a brand?
Again, that's not my goal. I mean, from the day I acquired GPI, which is 8th of August 2012, till we acquired the Hand-on Mob, or till we we launched the GPL, the goal was not how can we be profitable in short term. That's not the priority. The priority, because I can afford it, I made money, I can invest myself in that venture. I don't have any shareholders to say, to report to say we have to be profitable next week, which is good and bad, because you don't necessarily ask you the right questions sometimes. But the reality is you cannot create a GPI, you cannot create what we've built for the last 3 or 4 years thinking you're going to be profitable in short term. Because if you think like that, you just cannot do what we've done. So you have to think 5, 7, 10 years plan. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the reality. You have to think at least 5 to 6 years that what is the plan and what will be the outcome. And we can talk about that.
That's actually a really good segue, because what I wanted to get into next was, obviously, so you have this brand, which is the Global Poker Index. You own it. And then all of a sudden, there's a vision for the Global Poker League. And where did that come from, and how did that come to be?
Yeah, I'm just going to do the intermediate with the Hand-on Mob that we acquired, because that's a key element in that project. When I launched GPI, when we acquired GPI, which again was not my idea, I just see an opportunity in that I didn't want this to be lost, let's put it that way. But then 1 year after, we acquired the Hand-on Mob. Why? Because if you want to become this ATP, if you want to become this legitimate ranking, you need to ensure that the sourcing of the data that makes your ranking is owned by the same company. I cannot be dependent of a third-party provider to be a legitimate ranking. So we acquired the Hand-on Mob. It was a seven-figure acquisition. And again, Hand-on Mob was actually a company that was losing money, because they used to make a lot of money with Full Tilt, if you recall, like a lot of money, affiliation and all that stuff. But we acquired it when it was at the bottom in terms of revenue, but at the highest in terms of traffic. So we acquired that to ensure that GPI will sustain, not financially, but sustain as a product, which is the priority. So now we have GPI, we have Hand-on Mob, we have this legitimate ranking. Well, great, Alex, that's amazing. You're losing money, and at the end, you cannot really do anything out of that. So the next stage for us, with a dream of sportifying poker, which is now becoming almost like a joke when you say it, but with a dream of sportifying poker, the next stage was to create that platform, that framework that we call GPL, Global Poker League. The genesis of it is genesis of it is the following. Poker is a game of luck, even though it's a skill game, but there is a big luck element. Even Daniel Negreanu cannot win every single poker tournament.
Yeah, but Fedor Holtz can.
Well, fair enough. Even when he's retired, he can. But so that's great, because it gives a chance to everybody to win. But that's bad, because for a media perspective, for a fan engagement perspective, I cannot always support the same players, because every second week it's another player that wins a tournament. So we believe that to change that narrative, to create that storyline, we need to create a segregated structure, framework, where only the same players compete all year long against each other through a very specific system, and that become the genesis of GPL. I'm going to use one example that is not really American, and I apologize. I'm going to use the Formula One, F1, which is a bit similar than NASCAR, but different. What we've built is the following. We created a racetrack, which is the league. The league is a racetrack. On that racetrack, we put 12 cars. That's the 12 franchise, the 12 teams. In the 12 cars, we put 12 drivers. It's the 72 players of GPL. Then we fuel the cars. Then we put bleachers, which are virtual, like Twitch, or live in our TV studio. And all year long, you have these 12 cars chasing each other. Because we hammer the marketing, not today, but in the next few years, we're going to hammer the marketing towards these 12 cars, towards the same drivers. Then you create a storyline. Then you create a narrative, and you create a fan engagement towards these drivers and these cars. And that's what we want to build. We want to create something where tomorrow morning at the office, you're going to come back and say, hey, have you seen the match between the rounders and the money makers? Oh, what a bluff. And creating this addiction, this content that will become every week, every day, etc. That's the genesis of GPL.
So it's a unique idea. You obviously, I'm assuming, had a team of people help to create the format, et cetera. What I'm curious about is, obviously, you're very familiar with the Epic Poker League and how that didn't really work out. A lot of players were left with money that they were owed that didn't get paid. And even before that, I don't know if this is before your time, there was what was called the PPL, Professional Poker League, that Chip Reese tried to put together, which was really, good idea. That didn't make it either. So is there any lessons that you look back on from both of those failures that sort of steered you in a different direction? And what made you believe that you could make this work when others haven't?
Well, I have a big list for that. I'm going to try to make it short. First of all, it's what we call time to market, meaning that most of the initiative in the past has been Epic Poker League or PPL and all the other stuff, Poker Battle, if you recall. That there is many poker initiative that has been launched by people that thought they were going to make money soon. Because at that time, poker was glowing and growing, and everybody thought it was like the pot of gold. I don't know if you say that in English, or the gold rush. And I believe that people that launched poker initiative at that time were opportunists, while you have to be visionary in a way that you have to think long term.
So you felt like people were trying to get in, make a quick buck, and get out.
Yeah, and it obviously didn't work. And I think that most of the people who tried that failed. As I said, when I acquired GPI, when I invested literally more than $4.5 million of my own money for the last 4 years, that I never thought about, how I'm going to get that money back next year. What's my ROI? It's irrelevant. You think building something, and I don't think these guys, at that time at least, thought that way. The second stuff is the market. It's the market. 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, everything was easy. So you launched something, and most of it was working. Not in that case, but most of the poker initiative, you launch an online poker room. When I launched Chili Poker 2006, it was easy. If you ask me to launch an online poker room today, I will say never do that, because you will lose a lot of money. But in their case, I think the fact that it was launched by poker players was actually a mistake. And I know it sounds crazy, but I used to say that Uber hasn't been launched by a taxi driver. And most of the disruption, most of the innovation rarely are launched by people that are coming from directly from the one that benefit out of it. And in my case,
we did see the success of poker players running an online site with Full Tilt Poker. They seem to do a very good job for a little while.
But yeah, no, as you said, it worked a bit, obviously, and it's worked for some of them, but at the end, you need to have a vision. You need to stick to it. And I think my flaw is I'm not a poker player, but my gift is I'm not a poker player. So by saying that is I don't think as a poker players, and I don't think only as a poker player for a poker players when I think about what we are doing. I'm more a media guy. As I said, I had a 10 years, more or less 10 years life before getting into the poker industry, and I have 18 years life before getting into GPI, and that life was half poker, half media, technology, startup, etc. And by merging these two worlds into what we do, I do believe it gives a chance to what we are doing. And the last thing is and that's one of my investors who told me that actually once in a while, is successful company or the company that managed to last long, but in a way that they managed to last long, meaning that they had the ability financially to buy time to last long and to succeed. Meaning that Epic Poker League has been unlucky. I'm going to be straight. They have been unlucky because they didn't succeed in securing a second fundraising to proceed to the end of their vision. Mm-hmm. And if they would have succeeded to do that, probably nobody will blame them today, even if they fail 1 year after.
I will say this, that one of the big mistakes they made was overextending, and it's one of the things that I think we'll get into a little bit later about what you're doing right, in my opinion. But they overextended themselves, and they set themselves up for failure because they were just expending way too much too early.
Yeah, no. And me, as an entrepreneur, I'm not going to blame them, because that's what I do, and that's some of my mistakes as well. I've done a lot of mistakes, especially in the last 2 years. But at the same time, they have been unlucky. There is the Black Friday that happened just after they launched, etc. They wanted to raise capital from Full Tilt or PokerStars or whoever, and they would have found money if Black Friday didn't happen. Anyway, that's the past. You cannot change it. In my case, I was lucky. I started with GPI, tried to learn to earn legitimacy as an individual myself and as a company. I spend money on that. Then we acquired the Hand on Mob, which helped us as well. We did the American Poker Awards, the European Poker Awards. So first we started to really become that authority, that body. And then we started the crazy project, which is GPL, but I could fail any time, don't take me wrong, and it could happen, that's true. But I'm doing everything I can to ensure that that project will last for the next 10 years, at least.
So, you talk a lot about vision, right? And I'm a big believer in every successful company really understands and is clear on what the vision is for their company. If you had to, in let's say like a paragraph, tell me what your vision is for the Global Poker League, what would that be?
That's a
tough
good question.
I
mean, no, because you have a vision, you know where you want to go, and I'm going to tell you where I want to go. And then there is the path that you're going to take that's actually going to change 10 times to achieve that vision. The big vision is the same since the beginning. The way we try to achieve it is different every 6 months. The vision I want to achieve is to create the NBA/NFL/UFC /WWE, very important element of it. No, it's very, very important because we need to create, I would say, fake drama and characters.
Sure.
And a mix of Formula One. All of this, we shake it. And in 10 years, GPL should be a multi-continent league with online and live events with 4 different conferences, Americas, Latin America, Europe, and Asia. And it will be mainly a digital platform because that's where the trend is.
Sure.
It will be Texas Hold'em, but not necessarily, because the game of poker, and I would like to talk about that later, but the game of poker has to change to capture the new generation of millennials and youngsters. Mm-hmm. And it will be, yes, a profitable company, but it will be owned by a media company or a sports company. And it will not be owned by me anymore. I'm the maker. I'm the, how do you call that when you are young? I'm the incubator of it.
Okay.
For the next probably 2 to 5 years now. But it will grow as a profitable company in the hands of a leading sports marketing company.
Okay, so now that you've had half a season so far of the GPL, I want to commend you for even getting the thing off the ground because I know it's not an easy task. But if you had to pinpoint something or a few things that has worked so far that you've really been pleased with, what would those things be?
Well, I think our biggest achievement is actually to have launched it. I know it sounds cheesy.
No, I totally understand. Yeah.
We managed to get 72 of the best poker players in the world. We managed to create a draft, thanks to you, Phil, and some other guys, that honestly was amazing. For me, as an entrepreneur, one of my biggest poker moments will be the GPL draft. Why? Because it was one of the most interesting poker content without a single poker card.
Yeah.
There was not one card, and it was fascinating to follow.
It was very fun listening to Phil Hellmuth read the same list over and over and over of players that he knew.
No, it was cool. I really liked it. So our biggest achievement is to have launched it.
Right. So you got the ball rolling, despite it, a lot of moving parts. You've set up the league where it's actually happening.
Yeah, honestly, that's the biggest part for me. Then what did work, surprisingly, was actually the online element because I was not, for me, GPL, if you would have asked me 1 year ago, there was zero online element, literally zero. And to be transparent, we had a lot of chat and conversation with PokerStars, which at the beginning was supposed to be like a part of it, etc., and it didn't happen. But I was very close to Steve, if you remember Steve, the PRM guy of PokerStars.
Of course.
And we spoke a lot, and he wanted me to do more online element than live element. And me, I'm a live guy. I own GPI, so I wanted a live element. And months after months, I changed my mind because I realized that at the end, there is more people that actually watch online poker and that play online poker than people that play live poker. So, and with a company like Twitch, which we get one of the first after Jason Somerville to actually really engage and embrace that product, we realized that online poker is a cheap platform to do, especially if we do it differently. And with what we call the GPL online arena, which is like the online platform where you can see the whole cards of the players with the webcam. And the webcam, again, originally, when I introduced that to our GPL managers, they say, oh, that's amazing. Players are going to be able to banter against each other. And actually said, no, guys, you don't understand. We want the players to talk to us as an audience, not between themselves. Why? Because then I have for the first time ever, I'm going to see two players talking to me, the audience, and I'm going to be able to listen to what to their thinking process, and most important, I'm going to be able to see their cards, both of them.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, just this morning, to echo that point, I was watching on the GPL Live. There was Timothy Adams was playing against Kevin McPhee, and Timothy was just going through his thinking process and why he wants to do this or what he's planning on doing. And I agree with you, and I think that's really, really fascinating for people. And it seems like it's been a win. And I get what you're saying is that rather than them just make fun of each other, it's a little bit educational with entertainment as well.
Yeah, and the band, to be fair, the banter, I mean, you are one of a kind, but out of 72 players, not all the players wants to talk to each other because actually, especially, it will give a tell.
Sure.
So they actually don't want to talk. So we changed that, and there is one game you have to watch. I don't know if you watched it. It's the game of Anthony Zino versus Marchese. Okay. And Marchese is doing a 4-minute tank in an online play, talking to the webcam, where he says, guys, you know what? I'm going to tank for 4 minutes. I'm going to bluff the guy. And the guy is leaving the webcam. He's going in his toilet or whatever. And then you see Anthony Zino saying, oh, guys, I think he has been disconnected. I don't know what's going on. What the fuck is And funny. For us, we know exactly what's going on. And it's horrible. And he's coming back. He's playing I don't know what. And Zino fold. Or I think a Zino fold, or I don't know, but it's an amazing hand of something that never happened before because you've never seen that. So
okay, well that's really interesting for a couple reasons. Because one, I wasn't aware that Tom did that, and the next time I see him, I'll let him know that I owe him a slap in the face for like 4-minute tanks. But anyway, so you've had a lot of good things going. Sounds like so
yeah,
the league's been happening.
Was good. The Cube, just to finish on that, the Cube was a good experience. Again, we built it. It's not as good as we wanted, but we built it. It's there. It's in Las Vegas. We built a studio. And that's going to be the next point, I guess, is there was a lot of things that didn't work the way we wanted. And that's an interesting way as well, because we cannot, a lot of people think that, or thought that we are going to succeed immediately. But guys, guess what? We cannot do what EPT did in 13 years. We cannot do what esport industry did in 15 years. So we are 4 months old. So people need to understand that we are learning. We try, we fail, and we fix. But it is a learning process for us as well.
So what is it that you've seen so far that you looked at and you say, you know what, yeah, we might need to tweak this, or this isn't working, this isn't how I planned it, and having to shift out of that. What's been sticking out to you?
Plenty of things. Funny enough, the online element, the online arena was probably the most successful part we had. We had Grafton and Griffin Banger as well, which was actually a very good match. They were very difficult to work with, but there was chemistry and it worked pretty well. Eric, Danny, Slora, all these guys, very good team. I think it worked well. Where we failed and we lost momentum was actually, funny enough, during the most expensive part of the league, which is what we've done in Las Vegas, for many reasons. The first one is we were doing one daily match every day for 7 weeks in a row, every day at 11 in the morning, so before the World Series of Poker. Again, we don't want to compete with the World Series. We are a sponsor of the World Series, so there was no need for us to facing them. But we decided to actually host the GPL Summer Series during the World Series because we have access to all the poker players, which makes sense. So for us, it's a cheaper way to do that. The problem is we didn't get traction despite the fact that we have great players, we have a decent content. It was not amazing, but we have a decent content. But you cannot poach traction for the World Series. That's the reality, period.
Huge mistake. I agree with you there. I know in the past people have tried to run tournaments against the World Series of Poker, and it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and for us, it's not even tournaments, because tournaments, to be fair, it will be successful because you have the customers available locally. But for us, we even lost the poker community because they were in Vegas. And when you're in Vegas, you don't have time at 11 in the morning to watch Twitch and follow GPL. So that was a mistake. That was actually my fault. And the second mistake we've done would be we were not ready enough. And I don't think it's a mistake. It's just life and business. But we were not ready enough to create an engaging content during the World Series. And most important, one of my big mistakes is we didn't deliver one of my promise, which was the merchandising of GPL, which now is going to be launched very soon. But the shop of GPL should have been launched. The jersey of the New York Rangers, the Montreal National, all this stuff should have been launched at that time, which was the plan, by the way, but it didn't work out. And that was a big mistake for two reasons. The first one is people want it. I can tell you that the first thing, when GPL showed the 12 logos of the 12 teams, which was the 12th of January at the PCA, the first email, the first tweet was, where can I buy a GPL jersey, a franchise jersey? The second thing is you have 20,000 people during the World Series, which could have embraced GPL, wear a jersey or whatever, and start to engage with the brands.
Sure.
We failed in that. Tough life. We will make it better next year, and in the meantime. But yeah, that's the few things that we.
The other thing I noticed that you released recently was there's been a change in terms of the plans going forward for the finals, where you're going to move into live. Now, I'm say that I personally think it's a very smart decision. But what went into that decision? Were you guys thinking a little too big originally, and what caused the shift there? And what is it exactly for those that don't know?
Yeah. So originally, when we announced a few things, we wanted to have a final. We wanted to have the playoff at TwitchCon, which is end of September, and then to have a final at Wembley. Wembley Arena, which is in London. I'm going to tell you a secret that I never said publicly yet. Actually, in July last year, so literally 1 year ago, we agreed with the Madison Square Garden in New York to actually host the GPL finals there. And I was super excited. At that time, I just raised capital from a Chinese VC, which are our investors right now. And I'm selling to them the fact that we're going to host the first poker event in New York, in literally downtown in Manhattan. They agreed with it. And I was excited. Then October, big drama. The daily fantasy sports drama happened with the FanDuel and DraftKings. And this gave a big cold feet to Madison Square Garden company because they were investors. They put like $50 million in DraftKings. So they got super scared, and suddenly they don't want to hear anymore about gaming that is not gambling, because I told them, listen guys, we don't do gambling. And they tell me, yes, but DraftKings tells us that they don't do gambling, but there is the AG on their back. So we wanted to think big. I wanted to think big because I wanted to do a big impression, and because I had capital to do it, and again, because I think it would have made sense. Now, luckily it didn't happen, first of all. And this summer, what happened is we finished our 15 consecutive weeks of streaming the 8th of July. We were swamped, drained. I have a small team. I'm not PokerStars. I'm not ESPN. We have a very small team. And we were exhausted. And the original plans were to start again the 16th of August during EPT Barcelona, which is more or less 1 month after. What we realize is in 1 month, we're not going to have time to have holidays and rest. And most important, we're not going to have time to actually sit down and think what we should improve. So we took the decision to postpone 1 month the start again of the GPL. So we start the 20th of September. By changing this date, we cannot do anymore the playoff in TwitchCon, which was a bit of a disappointment. So we still have an event in TwitchCon, but it's not the playoff anymore. So our regular season ends end of October. Now, big question mark, Alex. You have a final that is set in London, in Wembley Arena. You're going to have 1,000 people, 1,500 people that's going to come. It doesn't matter that they pay or don't pay. It's irrelevant. We're going to fill up the space that we're going to have. I want to put the cube in this arena, and we're going to create a great event. Now the reality is the following. We installed the cube in our TV studio in Las Vegas. It cost us more money. It's much more complicated than we expected and that the German engineer built it. I'm in a situation where moving the cube back to London cost me more or less 100K, and creating an event in Wembley is going to cost me 500-600K. Great. I think it's a mistake if we do it because it will be a fail. That's the reality. Not because of the money, but because myself and my team, we are not ready yet to embrace something as big. So we decided that, and we inspired ourselves a lot from the esport industry. Instead of trying to bring people to a venue, we decided to actually stay more digital. And we have a cube that is installed in our TV studio in Las Vegas, which I pay, which is there. It doesn't cost me anything. And in season 1, I'm going to use that studio to host the playoff and the final. It's not as big as I wanted at all, but the priority right now, it's not to actually, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And my priority is to ensure that we finish season 1 and then we move forward to season 2. Because that's how we're going to create legitimacy.
Right. So, as a little bit of I've been around poker a long time, and we're going to move into this in a minute here, but like as the skeptic in me, when I hear 1,500 people going to Wembley to watch a GPL that hasn't necessarily, taken off and become mainstream yet, 1,500 seems like a stretch. And I agree with you in the sense that the worst thing that could have happened was you have the event and there's like 50 people there or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, no. But it will not, funny enough, in London, it will not have happened. Why? London is the second largest city for the Hendon mob in terms of traffic, poker-wise. Secondly, London, you have all the sports, all the online regulated gaming, which is there. So I could have asked every single bookies, every single poker room to send 150 of their guests, of their VIP, whatever, that they would have won. So we will literally have 1,500 people. That's not a problem.
Okay.
But we would have failed in creating a show that I want to make. And that's the most important.
So the point to move into, talking about skeptics, obviously, you have plenty of people who, and I remember there was a moment where you released all the details, the interesting, information about the cube and all these different initiatives about how the league's going to run. And then I remember seeing a tweet, because part of what the cube means is people stand up. So I saw a tweet that you're creating a league that discriminates against the handicapped. It's like when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, a guy's trying to do a good thing and people are shitting on him for the dumbest thing ever. So, and then I noticed that, you got yourself maybe in a little bit of hot water, getting involved with Twitter and going back and forth. So what's that like? I mean, obviously you have a vision for what you want to create. And then when you hear people say things like that, like what goes through your mind?
Well, I guess for you it's even worse because you're much more exposed than I am. Me, I have two problems. I'm emotional because this is my baby, this is my money, this is my vision. Secondly, I'm French, so there is some loss in translation sometimes. And as my wife told me every time I'm going into a Twitter feud, is Alex, stop to engage. And she gets pissed. Actually, she gets more pissed than me because she sees how I react. Now, truth to be told, Twitter is an amazing tool to share information, to engage, and to talk with some people. But the reality of the feedback that I get, it's not on Twitter. It's on direct message that I will get that are not public and on direct support that I get. I'm going to give you an example. Last year, so when was it? July last year, there was the Chad Brown charity tournament at the Planet Hollywood. I was there, and I just got shit for like 2 weeks before because of GPI. First because of the ranking, and secondly because I made a mistake in a promotion, and I got a lot of shit out of it. And then there is a poker player, I'm not friend with him, but it's Dan O'Brien, came to me, said, Alex, don't worry about what people say on Twitter. What you do is great, please continue. Mm-hmm. And I could give you a list of 50 to 60, let's say, top tier people that contact me personally, say, Alex, don't give a shit about that. It's irrelevant. Do what you think is right. We support you. When I ended up having 203 players that signed up for the draft, which honestly is probably 3 times more than what we were expecting, I said, okay, guys, we have a momentum. We need to use it, but we need to put in a box, or we need to put aside whatever critiques you get, because at the end, in 3 years, in 5 years, if I'm lucky enough or strong enough to have succeeded in keeping the league alive at the time, this is irrelevant. Every single mistake, every single polemics or bullshit we get now, it's irrelevant in 3 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So you need to learn how to go to go through that. And just, unfortunately, don't give a shit about that. Right.
So obviously, seems like today with any business, and obviously something like this, social media is going to play a role long term. And I'm wondering, because one of the things that I don't know, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. What's the thinking behind having, celebrities, a guy like Aaron Paul, who was on Breaking Bad, and, him being part of because part of me says, okay, if this is a league of the best players, it should be about the best players. Like, why are we having celebrities? And what value do you think they add? And do you think that it sort of hurts the credibility or legitimacy of the league in any way?
It's both things. So actually, you by saying that you're a Twitter hater. In a way that there is one player out of 72 that is not a professional poker player. Yes, I agree. 1 out of 72. Why did we do that? We did that first because we had the opportunity. And to be fair, we had other opportunities in other territories, especially in Hong Kong Stars. Celine Alin did an amazing job. And we had access to someone very, very famous that has 200 million fans in China. So it's a huge thing. Then the agent we were working in, we realized that if we have to pick one celebrity, just for the sake of trying to be a little bit more mainstream, it has to be in LA, because LA is the cinema, is the movie, it's Hollywood, so it makes sense. Now, we had a list of, like, say, 15 people. Players that has been seen before on Shark Cage, player that has been seen before on some other poker event. I wanted someone neutral, but most important, I wanted someone that is committed to the game. And Aaron Paul is someone that last year or 2 years ago came to the World Series of Poker, put his sunglasses, spent $10,000 and played in the middle of the mainstream people without being sponsored, without anything. He did it because he loved the game. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want someone that was going to support GPL because of the money, but because he liked the games. And that's why we picked him. Now, when I met him, because funny enough, I met him only when he came to visit us in Vegas and played in the Cube, then he told us that he actually was a regular Hyper Turbo player on Full Tilt back in the years. He was actually playing against Coleman and all these guys. So he's actually a very good and decent online poker player, but he cannot play anymore. So he was the right character. Now, is it legit, or does it create, or does it remove credibility on the league? No, because it's 1 out of 72, and we know why we use it. I will not add 2 celebrities in every single team, because that will not serve the purpose of GPL.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned China a few times a little bit recently, and I know you recently took a trip over to China. What's going on over there? Like, what's important about China, and how does that affect the league at all?
So, I spend true story again, and I want to be very transparent on that podcast. First, because it's you, and you've been very supportive in everything we've done in the last 4 years, and secondly, because I believe that being an entrepreneur and sharing our thought is actually very important. Even if we fail, I may fail, but it doesn't matter, because I will share the process and the thinking process of what we do. What happened last year is I was trying to raise capital. I met a lot of people, Canada, US, Europe, and then I speak to one guy. I said, do you want to own the Chinese franchise of GPL? Because originally we wanted to have 12 different owners. And the guy said, Alex, how much does it cost? Say like $200K. I was on FaceTime with him. He was based in Hong Kong. He said, you know what? Yeah, $200K, I can do it. But at the end, owning a franchise, it's not the big game. The big game is the league. So I want to be investor in the league. And then I look at myself, I say, oh, shit, I don't want to have anybody in the league. I want to have 12 different owners. I don't want to have someone that I don't know on the top of it. And spend literally 24 hours, I said to myself, but at the same time, I have someone that has potential, that understands what I want to do, and that is keen to invest. I take the flight 2 days after to Hong Kong, met the guy. Hong Kongese, financial, he's actually a poker player that is playing the 50K buy. You were playing with him actually last week in Barcelona, Stanley.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, Alex, I understand what you want to do. I understand to whom you're going to sell that. I'm keen to invest $1 million, but you need to convince one of my friends in Beijing, which is one of the most famous venture capitalists in China. And then I'm in Hong Kong. I say, well, yes, I made it. I have someone who is keen to invest $1 million, but shit, I need to go to Beijing, a country, in China mainland, which I've never been before, to talk to a guy that I don't know and to convince him of what I'm doing. Fair enough. I'm going to Beijing. I spent 3 days there, meet the guy, gigantic mind. He's a mentor for me in many ways, very well connected. And spent 2 days. I'm explaining the business. And he's the only guy in my life who told me, Alex, you don't have enough ambition. You need to think bigger. and the first time, and true story, he told me that one day. It was 4 a.m. for me and 10 a.m. for them on the phone. And the day he told me that, I was like, what the fuck, man? I mean, nobody ever told me that. And I think I actually have too much ambition. Mm-hmm. But by telling me that and by actually helping me to think to another scale, he convinced me that he was the right partner. And he was asking me the right question. So here we are. 1 year ago, I raised a few millions of dollars from different investors. 2 were Chinese, 2 were European. And since I've been 4 times in China, we made a deal with the local Yahoo, let's say, called Sina Sports. So we have a multi-year agreement with Sina Sports, who have 40 million unique viewers per day on their sports section. And we're going to launch that next year. We're going to launch a poker section on their stuff. But what happened in China is the following. And that's a very holistic view and a very macro view. So bear with me. China has been a country which didn't have a lot of hobby, didn't have a lot of entertainment proposition till like 10, 15 years ago. Now the country, which used to rely on manufacturing as an industry, as a country for the last decade or so, realized that they need to go in other territories, they need to go in other verticals, and they decided to go in the entertainment business. Entertainment business means sports, movie, etc., etc. So you have seen a lot of Chinese companies acquiring franchise all over the world, acquiring Hollywood studios, acquiring sports marketing agencies. And poker in China is seen as a mind sport. It's seen as a skill game, but it's seen as well as gambling. It's bad. It's very bad. Especially that there was few cases that were on TV, and of course we had all the dirty shit out of it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, you have 1.3 billion people that are available there, and you have 20 to 30% of them that are allowed to dream. 30% of them is 450 million people. 450 million people are allowed to dream. It doesn't mean that they can afford it, but they're allowed to dream. Mm-hmm. And China is a territory where poker hasn't had a boom yet, because online poker is not legal, obviously, and it's actually pretty much protected there. So you cannot have big intrusion.
What kind of boom do you think you could see there? Like, what are you seeing here?
When I was there last week, for example, I've seen one of the 4 regulated poker club, 3-story building in the front of the stadium, where you can play real money poker in a tournament mode. But you cannot really cash out. It's a bit complicated. It's with points, but still, it's
okay.
It's still China.
That seems like a bad deal.
No, because it's just different. It's not the same way as we Westerners we used to play. Okay. But the reality is the following, and that's a public information, so I can share it. You have Tencent. Tencent is like the largest Asian company. It's bigger than Alibaba. They are the one who own WeChat. WeChat is the WhatsApp, and they have 800 million active users per month. These guys have a social poker. They have like a Zynga poker. Okay, their Zynga poker went from 60 million registered users to 100 million registered users the last 2 months, and because of course of marketing promotion and way of pushing, etc. But you have a tank of new poker players, but most important, poker fans that wants to embrace poker. And the only way to do it right now is with social poker, what we call social poker, which is like free-to-play app where you can buy chips, etc., but you cannot cash out. Is it good? Is it bad? It doesn't matter. It educates these players to learn Texas Hold'em. It educates these players to learn who is Martin Jacobson, Daniel Negreanu, etc. If you follow Martin Jacobson, he was in April in China. He was invited by a company, so it's not public, so I'm not going to share whom, but he was invited for a TV show in China. When he arrived at the airport, there was people screaming and cheering for him to have an autograph. And China,
at the airport?
Yes. Wow. And of course it was planned.
But did they think he was like Justin Bieber or something? Or they knew who it was?
Maybe. But what it means that we have to for me, the way I see it, the next poker boost, which is not the poker boom, it's the poker boost, will come from 2 ends, literally opposite. China and California. And China will fuel the potential of poker to grow again, because with the money that we may hopefully gonna collect locally on a local market with sponsoring, with advertising, with monetization that we're going to have, that's money that's going to be able to spread to the rest of the world.
Right. So in China, you're not. So in China, the vertical isn't online poker for real money. It's this social gaming aspect. But then when you switch over to California, you're talking about legislation happening there.
Yeah, in California, it's very frustrating. You know, I'm probably the biggest proponent of PokerStars outside of being an employee or outside of being someone that is paid by PokerStars, which I'm not. And right now, for the first time ever, I will almost have wish that the bill, so there was a bill last week that almost passed, that will have exclude PokerStars. And you could ask yourself, I mean, you cannot, but I can ask myself, what is California without PokerStars? First of all, it means that it happens. It means that next year, online poker is regulated. We all know, and it's true, online poker in California will be more or less a $300 million market, which is the same as France. So it's a legit number. $300 million market, half of it is going to be spent in marketing in year one. So you have $150 million that's going to be spent in marketing in California. But when you spend $150 million, you don't spend it only in California. You spend by having Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. You have a new rounders and all that kind of stuff. So whatever you will spend in California will actually serve the rest of the world. It's going to have a butterfly effect. Mm-hmm. So having online poker being regulated in California will actually grow poker globally. Then stars or not stars, if you don't have stars, it means that you have 888 and party poker that get a bigger foothold there. They make more money, and that money could help them to grow in other markets, which could help them to be more balanced. So there is pro and cons. Anyway, it didn't happen, so fuck it.
Yeah.
But the reality is online poker in California is our savior of all of us, and New York a little bit as well. But it's our savior because it's $150 million, which is more than the money generated right now by 888 or by party poker almost as an aggregated as the market. And that money will be spent to promote poker on a global scale.
Okay. Well, one more question for you, all right? And, you're a guy who understands branding, how to build a brand, how to sell it. Now, what advice would you have, if any, for some of the younger players in the game today that maybe want to, create a brand, create some value for themselves, whether it's through the GPL or other ways? Like, if you were if you had advice for somebody who's 23, who's a decent player and wants to do that, what advice would you give them?
It's a good question. I mean, as we've seen, being monetized or being valuable as a poker player, as a brand, is not anymore about the result. It's obviously about your image. And your image, because poker is a game of luck, cannot depend only of your result. You can see Jason Somerville, who is not the biggest live poker players or the biggest online poker players, but he has a massive brand because he's working hard to build his brand. You have the, what is his name, Jamie Staples. Same story. He's definitely not a first year and probably not a second tier player, but he created his brand, and I can tell you, he's making money out of it. And I believe that players who wants to pursue a career that is not just based on poker winnings, so player that wants to embrace poker as a marketability, let's say, product, have to promote themselves either indeed through Twitch, either through any other platform that makes sense, and GPL will be one of them. Why? Because 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a guy like you, a guy like Phil Hellmuth, a guy like Phil Ivey, of course you're amazing players, but you have been promoted by thousands of millions of dollars of marketing by poker rooms. This doesn't exist anymore. So nobody can come from, I'm not going to say nowhere because that's not the case, but nobody can be promoted by a poker room today and become a star. We are the only so-called platform that is spending a bit of millions of dollars to try to promote these players, but the players that we have are actually already legit, so we don't have like amateurs. So the best way will be creating your Twitch channel, creating something very unique that nobody ever done before. Even Doug Polk, very specific. He's a very specific character, we like him, you don't like him. I like the fact that he's always smiling, to be fair. I don't like his point of view on many things, but he's spending time to create his own brand. And it works. And he's making money out of it. Why? Because he has a coaching website behind it. Mm-hmm. So there is no room for hundreds of people that can make money out of poker and out of branding poker. But there is room for new characters for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, I totally agree. There's a lot of avenues now that you can use vehicles like Twitch and GPL and whatnot to promote your brand. But, I just wanted to thank you for being on the show and, acknowledge you for, I admire people like you that are real go-getters and that have this entrepreneurial spirit and that, despite skeptics telling them, they're going to fail, they just have the passion and the guts to jump in the fire and do it anyway. So I'm inspired by you. I root for you. And I think that everyone in poker should do what they can to support the GPL and hope that it grows because ultimately it's best for the entire interview. So thanks again, buddy, for being on.
Thanks, Daniel. And yes, we will have a lot of good surprise very soon. So you're going to like it.
All right. Looking forward to it. Well, thanks everybody for listening to episode 2 of the Full Contact Poker podcast. I'm having fun with it. That's been the goal the whole time for me is just to, I like it. I don't know. I got into the podcast game, listening to a lot of different ones and thought, why not? Let me see what I can offer the poker community. And I hope you guys enjoy some of the insights. I've got some really fun, cool guests planned in my head in the future from all walks of life. I'm also going to probably do some, with poker players that you might be interested in hearing from that you don't hear a lot from. Maybe a gentleman by the name of Phil Ivey. We're going to get him on here at some point. I'm going to make him. I'm going to force him. I'm going to tie him down, get him to do an interview, right? So there's going to be a lot of stuff. As far as the schedule goes, I'm looking to do at least monthly, but probably bi-weekly, one every couple weeks. So if there are any sort of topics or there's any kind of guests that you want to hear from, you can email the show at dnegspodcast@gmail.com. That's DNEGS podcast@gmail.com. And, I don't know how this podcast game works, but people told me it's important that y'all leave reviews and subscribe and stuff. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make y'all an offer. Free $100 to a random reviewer on the iTunes, website there. If you give me a review, and again, I don't know how I'm going to pick it. It might be random. It might be whatever that I find funny. It might be one that's brutal. So I'm not like begging for you to write a good one. Just, the more feedback we get about what you guys want to hear, the more likely you are to actually hear what it is you want to hear. So, free $100 if you subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. I just left one. I left the third one. It's from me. It's OMG, so good, says me. That's so vain, right? Talking about my own podcast being awesome. Hey, I don't know. The review game is supposed to be important for iTunes and blah, blah, blah. So please do that for me if you get a chance. And other than that, I hope you guys got something out of that interview with Alex Dreyfus. And I hope that you all, take a look at the Global Poker League and see if there's something of interest there. There's a lot of really top players in there sharing their insights about how they play and some fun hands. I mean, you can't go wrong watching the Jungle Man play heads up in the cube. That's appointment television right there. So until the next one, everyone have a good day, night, whenever you're listening to this thingy, and we will see you or hear from you, or you'll hear from me on the next one. You know what I always sucked at in my whole life is like quitting, being done. Like I should just say cheers. I'm gonna have to come up with a tagline like, what is that? San Diego, that Anchorman guy. I'm gonna come up with one. I'm gonna write. How about this? Send me at dnegspodcast@gmail a good outro for me to finish on. Something funky, something that's catchy. All right? Because all I got right now is peace.